Stop complimenting women. I'm dead serious. If you are a man who regularly dishes out compliments thinking it's your ticket to our heart, stop right now. Because what you're actually doing is announcing to every woman within earshot that you have absolutely no idea how female psychology works. And the scariest part, you genuinely believe you're winning. You walk away from those interactions thinking you dropped something smooth, something charming, something she'll replay in her head tonight before she falls asleep. Meanwhile, and nobody is going to tell you this to your face, she forgot your words before you even finished your sentence. That's not an insult. That's a diagnosis. And if that stings, good. Because what I'm about to unpack over the next 15 minutes is going to fundamentally rewire the way you understand verbal communication with women. This isn't about learning better pickup lines. This is about understanding why the entire framework you've been operating under is broken at the foundation. But before I tear it apart, I need to show you the lie you've been sold first.
Welcome back to Love and Logic, the space where we dissect relationships with honesty, depth, and zero handholding. Whether you're navigating the dating world, rebuilding after heartbreak, or trying to level up emotionally, you're in the right place. I'm Olivia. And today we're going somewhere uncomfortable. I'm going to expose the single biggest communication failure men make with women, and it's the one thing every man thinks he's already good at. I'm going to show you why it fails, what's psychologically happening underneath, and by the end, I'm going to give you a framework that will separate you from 95% of men permanently. But fair warning, some of what I say is going to make you defensive, and that defensiveness, that's exactly the reaction that proves my point. Let's get into it.
There is a myth that's been circulating in male social circles for generations, and it goes like this. Women love compliments, so if you give her enough of them, she'll feel special, she'll warm up to you, and eventually she'll see you as the thoughtful, romantic guy. Sounds logical, right? Almost mathematical. Input praise, output affection. Simple transaction. Except it's completely wrong. And the reason it's wrong is because it treats women like vending machines. You insert a compliment coin and you expect an emotional reward to drop out the bottom. Nobody frames it that way consciously, of course. But subconsciously, that's exactly the operating system most men are running. They believe that words of admiration carry inherent value, that the act of saying something positive is automatically meaningful. Here's the harsh truth. A compliment has no inherent value. None. Zero. The value of a compliment is determined entirely by the awareness, timing, specificity, and emotional honesty behind it. Without those four elements, your compliment is just noise, and women are drowning in noise. Think about that for a second. She's been hearing "you're beautiful" since she was 16 years old, from strangers, from coworkers, from men in her DMs at 2 a.m, from guys at gas stations, in grocery store aisles, and across crowded bars. You are not the first person to notice that she's attractive. You're not even the first person today. So when you walk up and deliver the same observation that 100 men before you already made, what exactly are you offering her? What are you bringing to the table that she hasn't already received, processed, and filed under meaningless? Nothing. And that's the lie, the belief that participation alone earns you points. It doesn't.
Let me paint you a picture that might hit close to home. There's a man. Let's call him David. David is a decent guy, well-intentioned, respectful. He meets a woman at a colleague's birthday gathering. Her name is Amara. She's sharp, well-dressed, carries herself with a quiet magnetism that draws attention without demanding it. David is genuinely impressed. So within the first 7 minutes of conversation, David says, "Wow, you're really beautiful." Amara smiles politely. "Thank you." The conversation continues, but something shifted. David felt like he scored.
Amara mentally categorized him. Now here's what David doesn't know. In those 7 minutes, he was actually building intrigue. Amara was curious about him. She was engaged. She was wondering where this was going. And then he threw a generic compliment at her, like tossing a penny into a fountain, hoping for magic. What happened in Amara's mind was instantaneous and devastating. In one sentence, David went from interesting to predictable. From, I wonder what he's about, to, oh, he's one of those. Not because the compliment was offensive, but because it was empty. It was effortless. It required nothing from him. No observation, no thought, no genuine attention to who she actually is beneath the surface. And here's what's going to bother some of you. Amara wasn't being ungrateful. She wasn't being arrogant. She was being human beings assign value based on rarity and effort. When something is abundant and effortless, it becomes worthless. And surface-level appearance compliments are the most abundant, most effortless words a woman receives. You didn't stand out. You blended in. And blending in is the death of attraction.
So, why do men default to this? Why is the automatic male response to an attractive woman some variation of commenting on her looks? This is where it gets psychologically fascinating and slightly unflattering. When a man encounters a woman he finds attractive, his brain enters what behavioral psychologists call a status evaluation loop. He's subconsciously assessing, does she notice me? Does she find me appealing? Am I registering on her radar? And the fastest perceived shortcut to registering is to verbally acknowledge the thing that intimidated him in the first place, her appearance. But here's the trap. By leading with appearance, he's not demonstrating confidence. He's demonstrating reactivity. He's telling her, without saying it directly, that her external presentation overwhelmed his composure, and the best his brain could produce under pressure was a surface-level observation that any stranger with functioning eyesight could make. That's not attraction building. That's surrender disguised as flattery. Now compare this with a man who meets the same woman, feels the same pull, but instead of reacting to her appearance, he observes her behavior. He notices how she navigates the social dynamics in the room. He notices the specific way she deflects an awkward question with humor. He notices the book title half visible in her handbag. And later, not immediately, not desperately, he references one of those observations in a way that makes her realize she was genuinely seen. Not looked at, seen. And those are two vastly different experiences. The first man offered her a mirror. The second man offered her a window into the fact that someone was paying real attention, not just performing interest. This distinction is rooted in attachment psychology. People with secure attachment styles tend to connect through recognition of character, not validation of appearance. People operating from anxious attachment tend to over-compliment as a strategy to secure approval and avoid rejection. The compliment becomes a safety mechanism, not an authentic expression. And women, especially emotionally perceptive women, can feel the difference between safety-seeking and genuine admiration in their bones.
Nobody wants to admit this, but if your compliment could be copied and pasted into a conversation with any other woman on the planet and still make grammatical sense, it's not a compliment. It's a template. And templates tell a woman one devastating thing about you. You didn't care enough to think. Here's the standard. Before any words leave your mouth, run them through this filter. Have I tailored this specifically to something I observed about this specific person in this specific moment? If the answer is no, if you could swap her name out and the sentence still works, you're handing her a photocopy and expecting her to treat it like a handwritten letter. The men who understand this never struggle to make an impression because genuine observation is so rare that when a woman encounters it, she doesn't just hear the words, she feels the effort behind them. And effort is the currency of real connection, not vocabulary, not smoothness, effort.
This is where most people get it wrong, and they get it wrong for a reason that actually seems noble on the surface. When you compliment a woman's eyes, her bone structure, her natural complexion, her height,
You're praising her genetic lottery results. You're applauding something she had zero involvement in creating. And while that might feel good momentarily, it plants a quiet, corrosive seed over time. Because here's what happens 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Time moves, skin changes, features shift, and every compliment that was anchored to her appearance becomes a reminder of something she's losing rather than something she's building. You've unintentionally tied her value to a depreciating asset. But when you acknowledge her discipline, her ability to hold a room, her work ethic, the way she problem solves under pressure, the way she carries grace through chaos, you're honoring something that appreciates over time, something she built brick by brick, something that no amount of aging can erode. I'm not saying never mention that she looks good. I'm saying if that's the only register you operate on, you've confined her entire identity to a frame that's destined to crack, and she'll remember who put her there. Here's an observation that's going to upset a certain category of men, and I genuinely don't care. If you've just met a woman at an event, through mutual friends, at a professional function, and your compliment references anything about her body in a suggestive or sexual manner, you haven't been bold. You've been blind. Blind to context, blind to boundaries, blind to the fact that she is a complete stranger who did not sign up to receive your physical assessment of her. But I was just being honest about what I see. No, you were being lazy about what you think. There's a universe of things you could acknowledge about a human being you just met. Her perspective, her energy, her sense of humor, the thoughtfulness of her questions. But instead, you chose the one lane that immediately tells her your interest is transactional. And here's the part nobody says out loud. She doesn't just feel uncomfortable, she feels unsafe. Because when a man she doesn't know sexualizes her within minutes of meeting, her brain doesn't register flattery, it registers threat assessment. She's not blushing, she's calculating her nearest exit. If she's your partner, your wife, someone who has invited that level of intimacy, different universe. But with someone new, you've just torched your credibility in a single sentence. And credibility, once burned, doesn't regrow. Let me tell you something that reveals more about character than almost anything else in dating. If the only way you know how to elevate a woman is by diminishing another one, you don't understand admiration, you understand ranking. And ranking people is not romance. It's insecurity wearing a costume. You're way more interesting than most women I've met. What does that sentence actually communicate? It tells her that you're grading women on a curve, and right now she's scoring well. But curves shift. What happens when someone more interesting walks in? She's already wondering. You planted that doubt yourself. Your friend is cute, but you're on another level. Congratulations. You just told her that you evaluated her friend's attractiveness, compared them side by side, and decided to share the results like a pageant judge handing out scores. She's not flattered. She's disturbed. Because the woman you just dismissed could be her closest friend, her sister, someone she deeply loves, and you casually reduced that person to a rung on a ladder you built without anyone's permission. This is where emotional intelligence separates men who attract from men who repel. If your praise requires a victim, it's not praise, it's politics. And now we arrive at the territory that most men don't even realize is dangerous. And it's this: commenting on a woman's body size, her weight, her physical dimensions, even positively, even admiringly, even with the absolute best of intentions. Here's the harsh truth that's going to challenge a lot of people watching right now. You have absolutely no insight into a woman's private relationship with her own body. None. You don't know if she spent 3 years recovering from disordered eating. You don't know if she cries in fitting rooms. You don't know if the very feature you're about to compliment is the one she battles every single morning in the mirror. I knew a woman, successful, magnetic, the kind of person who commanded every room she entered. She'd spent years in an agonizing push and pull with her body image. She finally reached a fragile peace with how she looked. Then a man she was casually seeing said with a grin, "I love that you're not one of those skinny girls. You've got some substance." He meant it as praise. She spiraled for a week, because what he saw as a compliment, she experienced as confirmation of her deepest insecurity. Your intention doesn't override her experience, ever. And this applies across the spectrum. Whether she's thin, curvy, athletic, petite, her body is not a topic for your commentary. Not because you're a bad person for noticing, but because you're playing with a landmine you cannot see, and the blast radius is entirely on her.
So, after all of that tearing down, let's build something up. What do men who actually leave lasting impressions do that separates them from the noise? 3 things, and they're deceptively simple. First, they lead with curiosity, not conclusions. They don't walk into a conversation having already decided what they want to say. They listen first. They observe. They let the interaction reveal what's worth acknowledging, rather than forcing a pre-made statement onto a moment that hasn't earned it yet. Second, they practice strategic patience. They understand that a compliment delivered after 45 minutes of genuine conversation carries exponentially more weight than one dropped in the first 90 seconds. Delayed validation signals confidence. Immediate flattery signals desperation, every single time. Third, they honor who she chose to become, not what she happened to be born as. Her degrees, her resilience, the business she built from nothing, the way she parents, the boundaries she maintains when it costs her, the way she stayed kind when the world gave her every reason not to be. These are the things that make a woman stop mid-breath and think, he actually sees me. Not her face, not her figure, her. And here is the final uncomfortable truth that I need every man watching this to sit with. Every woman you've ever been attracted to has been looked at her entire life. Thousands of eyes, thousands of comments, thousands of men who noticed exactly what you noticed, but almost none of them made her feel genuinely seen. The man who learns the difference between looking and seeing will never have to compete for attention again, because attention is cheap, recognition is priceless.
So, here's my direct challenge to every man watching right now, and I'm not softening this. The very next time you're about to compliment a woman, any woman, I want you to pause, physically pause, and I want you to ask yourself 3 questions before a single word leaves your mouth. 1. Is this observation specific enough that it could only apply to her and no one else in the room? 2. Does this require something she actually earned, built, or chose, not something she was randomly assigned at birth? 3. Am I saying this with 0 expectation of anything coming back to me? If all 3 answers are yes, speak. Speak with conviction. Speak with sincerity. And then, this is the part most men can't do. Let it go. Don't track her reaction. Don't measure her smile. Don't replay it later wondering if it worked. A real compliment is not an investment. It's a gift. And gifts come without invoices. Now, I already know this video is going to split the comment section straight down the middle. Some of you are going to say I'm overcomplicating something basic. Some of you are going to say this is the first time someone explained what you've always felt but couldn't articulate. And some of you, honestly, are going to be angry because this video just held up a mirror you didn't ask for. All of that is welcome here. Tell me where you stand. Drop it in the comments. Agree, disagree, add your own experience. I read every single one, and I will engage. If this challenged you in a way that felt productive, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you're new, This channel doesn't exist to make you comfortable. It exists to make you better. My name is Olivia. This is Love and Logic, and I'll see you in the next one.